I've got one question for the ranking member. Ranking Member Waters, in a 2008 hearing, you said, quote, "And guess what this liberal will be all about? This liberal will be all about socializing, would be about basically taking over the government and the government running all of your companies," end quote. Simple question, do you stand by that statement?
Simple answer. I am here today in this Rules Committee because we're taking up time with basically a non-issue. First of all, you claim that socialism has engulfed this country, that it keeps creeping, it's going to take over private businesses, et cetera, et cetera. That is not happening.
Have you ever seen a moment where just one question makes the entire room uncomfortable? Not loud or chaotic, just silent tension. The kind where everyone already knows what's being avoided. That's exactly what you're about to see. A calm but pointed exchange where Chip Roy brings up a past statement from Maxine Waters and asks one simple question. Do you still stand by it? What follows is a direct answer. And that's where it gets interesting. We've seen this pattern before, even in heated exchanges involving Adam Schiff, where the question itself becomes a real pressure point. If you care about what's really happening inside Congress, not the noise but the substance, like this video, subscribe to Capitol Pulse, and share it so more people can hear this conversation. I'm Kate. Let's take a closer look at what's really going on here.
Now, we can go around and around in circles about trying to talk about and defining socialism, but at its core, I was intrigued by an op-ed that I saw not too long ago by a Democrat from Cuba commenting on one of our colleagues, an avowed socialist, and essentially pointing out the extent to which democratic socialism is a lot like the system my family fled, except its proponents promised to be nicer when seizing your business. And that's the truth. That's the truth here. And so we can talk about these terms as if they don't matter, but they do. They do matter. They're actually at the core of who we are. I've got one question for the ranking member. Ranking Member Waters, in a 2008 hearing, you said, quote, "And guess what this liberal will be all about? This liberal will be all about socializing, would be about basically taking over the government and the government running all of your companies," end quote. Simple question, do you stand by that statement?
Simple answer. I am here today in this Rules Committee because we're taking up time with basically a non-issue. First of all, you claim that socialism has engulfed this country, that it keeps creeping, it's going to take over private businesses, et cetera, et cetera. That is not happening. We're in a democracy that we're trying very much to save and to not have disrupted, undermined in the way that...
So then, reclaiming my time, the gentlelady denounces your previous statement then and do not accept that previous statement that you think you would take over these private businesses?
I'm not a socialist. I'm a capitalist. And I commit to you that I am here to save Social Security, to save Medicare, to save seniors and veterans. And for some of you who have adopted certain kind of ways that you support what you now claim is socialism, I'm here to say to you, come on.
So this liberal will be all about socializing, will be all about basically taking over and the government running all of your companies. You disagree with that? You now denounce that statement?
I am not a socialist.
Okay.
All right?
So I appreciate the response. I think that to the extent that one has a concern as a member of this body or as an American watching this, one has concerns when we hear statements like this, and that's not the only one. And statements by some of our colleagues on the other side of the aisle extolling the virtues of socialism. As I just pointed out, a nicer way of confiscating businesses, a nicer way of confiscating the assets and the means of production.
What stands out in this moment isn't drama, it's discipline. Chip Roy doesn't interrupt or try to dominate the room. He simply reads a past quote about government control and asks whether it still reflects Maxine Waters' position today. And that's important. In any serious system, law, business, or leadership, your past statements matter. They create a record. And when that record is brought back, how you respond shows whether your position is consistent or changing. Instead of a clear yes or no, the response shifts away from the question. It reframes the issue, calling it irrelevant and focusing on broader themes like protecting democracy. To be fair, politicians do this all the time. But here's the deeper point most people miss. The original statement Roy referenced touches on a much larger debate in America. How much control should the government have over the economy? From a conservative perspective, the concern isn't just ownership, it's control. In reality, those two don't always align. Many people technically own businesses, but their decisions are heavily shaped by regulations, compliance rules, and external pressures. They operate, but within limits they didn't set. That's where Roy's argument is going. He's not just asking about a past quote. He's highlighting how government influence through policy and regulation can shape outcomes in ways that feel restrictive to individuals and businesses. When Waters responds by identifying as a capitalist, that's a clear label. But Roy stays focused on policy implications, not labels. And this is where the conversation becomes meaningful. It's not about shouting capitalism or socialism. It's about how policies impact everyday people, business owners, workers, and families navigating costs, rules, and opportunities. Another key detail, the exchange remains calm. No chaos, no interruptions. And often, those are the most revealing moments. Because when a direct question doesn't get a direct answer, people start reading between the lines. In the end, this moment highlights a bigger issue in Washington, the gap between what is clearly said and what is directly answered. And that gap is where public trust is tested. Moments like this aren't just about one exchange. They're about accountability, clarity, and whether leaders are willing to stand by their own record. I'm Kate, and this is Capital Pulse. If this made you think, don't just scroll past, subscribe, and share so more people can see what's really happening. And I want to hear from you. Was this fair questioning or something else? Your voice matters. So speak up,